Life at its deepest level is a long journey toward becoming who we truly are. Carl Jung called this process individuation. It is not a path of perfection or enlightenment, but a slow, often painful unfolding of the soul, a stripping away of masks of borrowed identities, until what remains is authentic and unmistakably our own. Have you ever felt that you are playing a role written by someone else? That your choices, your habits, even your feelings are shaped more by expectations than by your own truth? That is where the path begins, at the quiet realization that the life we are living might not belong entirely to us. Throughout life, we carry emotional supports, attachments, fears, old stories that once gave us comfort. They are like a crutch used by someone learning to walk again. At first, they are necessary. They steady us, protect us, give us a sense of belonging. But as our inner strength returns, those same supports begin to weigh us down. We no longer need them, yet we hold on. Why? Because letting go feels like losing a part of ourselves. Letting go is not simple. It is not merely deleting a number, packing away a memory, or walking away from a place. It is emotional surgery. It means allowing something to die inside us, so something new can be born. The psyche resists this with everything it has. We cling to relationships that have long lost their meaning, to beliefs that no longer resonate, to jobs that drain our spirit because they once offered safety. But growth demands loss. The soul begins to whisper, then to cry out, "You are ready now. You no longer need this to stand." And yet we hesitate, because letting go means stepping into the unknown, where no one can guarantee what comes next. Still, there comes a day when the weight of staying the same becomes heavier than the fear of change. That is the day individuation truly begins. Letting go does not mean rejection. It does not mean pretending the past had no value. It means bowing before it, saying, "Thank you for what you gave me. I release you now." Like a tree that lets its leaves fall in autumn, not because it despises them, but because it knows that to keep growing it must. Think about it. How many things are you still holding on to, not because they serve you, but because they once did? A relationship that gave you warmth but now brings confusion. A dream that once inspired you, but now feels empty. Old memories that replay in your mind, not as lessons but as anchors. Each of them has done its part. Each of them has given you something. But they are not meant to be carried forever. True transformation begins the moment we realize we do not have to carry everything that once kept us safe. And yet, when we finally start to release the old, we encounter another truth that Jung explored deeply: the shadow. The shadow is everything within us we try not to see. Our jealousy, our insecurities, our hunger for validation, our quiet rage. We all have it. The shadow is not evil. It is merely unacknowledged. When we ignore it, it controls us. You might recognize this, the need to be endlessly kind, endlessly giving, endlessly patient, even when it hurts. On the surface, it looks noble, but beneath it there is often fear. The fear of being rejected. The fear of being unloved if we dare to say no. The shadow hides in these patterns. It whispers, "Be good, be helpful, do not upset anyone," and we obey until one day exhaustion becomes unbearable. Facing the shadow is terrifying because it demands honesty. It forces us to admit that not all our goodness is pure, that some of it is born from fear. But once we face it, something extraordinary happens. We begin to feel whole again. The parts of us that we buried for years finally come home. Boundaries are born from this awareness. Saying no becomes not an act of aggression, but of self-respect. It is a declaration: I exist. My energy matters. My peace is sacred. Yet the first time we draw a boundary, guilt often follows. We fear disappointing others. We worry that people will call us selfish. But pause and ask yourself, why should your love require self-erasure? The truth is, love that costs your identity is not love. Jung believed that setting boundaries is one of the clearest signs of individuation. When we learn to protect our inner world, we create space for genuine connection. We no longer give to be loved, We love because it flows naturally from a full, secure heart. The no we say to others becomes the yes we whisper to ourselves. But another trap waits for us along the path, the illusion of projection. We see others not as they are, but as mirrors reflecting our unhealed parts. We fall in love with someone's potential, not their reality. We expect loyalty, empathy, or depth, where it does not exist because we have projected our own qualities onto them. And when they fail to meet those expectations, we feel betrayed. Have you ever loved someone for who you thought they could become? That was projection. Have you ever felt anger towards someone who triggered something in you could not name? That too was projection. Taking back a projection is humbling. It means saying, what I see in you might actually be a reflection of me. The disappointment we feel in others often reveals something unresolved within ourselves, a wound, a fear, a forgotten dream. When we withdraw our projections, relationships become clearer. We stop expecting others to heal us and start taking responsibility for our own growth. There is another powerful illusion that often binds us, the idea that we can change others. We see their patterns, their pain, their self-destructive choices, and we want to help. We explain, we guide, we plead, but the truth is, no one changes because someone else wants them to. Transformation begins only when a person chooses to look inward. You can stand beside someone, but you cannot walk their path for them. How many times have you tried to save someone, only to end up drained and heartbroken? You thought it was love, but perhaps it was control in disguise. We confuse compassion with the desire to fix, but real compassion allows others to face their own lessons. It says, I will hold space for you, but your journey is your own. Jung often said that true transformation begins when we stop blaming others for our pain. The moment we turn inward, we discover that the power to change our lives was never outside us. It requires brutal honesty, to admit that we are not helpless victims but co-creators of our own stories. That realization can break your heart, but it will also set you free, and yet the work never ends. The psyche is alive. Even when we think we have healed, life sends us new mirrors, new tests, new chances to grow. Transformation is not a single revelation. It is a rhythm, a constant dialogue between who we are and who we are becoming. At some point on this path, we begin to taste something rare, psychological freedom. It is not about isolation or arrogance. It is about no longer needing permission to exist as we are. It is the peace that comes from living in alignment with our own truth, even when the world disapproves. So many of us spend our lives chasing approval, measuring our worth by likes, by compliments, by applause. We adjust ourselves to fit expectations that were never ours to meet. Jung called this the invisible prison of the ego. To break free, we must dare to disappoint others, if it means staying true to ourselves. This freedom changes everything. We begin to see relationships more clearly. We stop confusing loyalty with obligation. We recognize that peace is more valuable than validation. And when we lose the need to please, our energy returns to us. We start creating not for applause but for purpose. We start loving not for approval, but for connection. Freedom also teaches us something subtle: clarity. It allows us to step back from chaos to say, this is mine, that is not. It gives us the strength to walk away from people who do not nourish our growth, not out of bitterness but out of self-respect. It teaches us that solitude can be sacred when it is filled with authenticity. Still, even the free heart knows longing. Missing someone, remembering the past, feeling nostalgia. These are all human experiences. But Jung warned that longing often disguises something deeper. It may not be about the person we miss, but about a part of ourselves that remains unhealed. When we miss someone, perhaps we are missing the version of ourselves that existed when they were near. When we revisit old memories, perhaps it is not love that pulls us back, but an emotional echo asking to be understood. Longing then becomes a mirror, a quiet teacher pointing to where the soul still aches for integration. Sometimes the most powerful act of healing is not to return, but to understand. Silent forgiveness, gentle withdrawal, These are the language of mature souls. Jung said that the psyche seeks integration, and often the most profound transformations happen not through confrontation, but through silence. Silence is not emptiness. It is presence. It is the moment we stop feeding conflict and start feeding our own peace. In silence, resentment dissolves. We stop explaining ourselves to those who have already decided not to understand. We no longer waste energy proving our worth. We simply walk away with grace. Choosing silence is choosing freedom. It is saying, my energy belongs to my growth, not to endless arguments. It is realizing that some truths do not need to be spoken to be lived. In the end, individuation is not about becoming someone new. It is about remembering who we were before the world told us who to be. It is the courage to let go of what no longer fits, to face the shadow without shame, to set boundaries with love, to release the illusions we have cast upon others, and to walk our own path, steady, alone, and free.